raw marriage to you?
The reason why we talk about raw marriage is not to bring the fluffy things about marriage. It's to bring the raw issues that are going on in marriage.
This is the gritty side of marriage.
Yes, it
Get
is.
into the things that can tear you apart if you don't address them. I want to talk about boundaries. And you know, I got a bone to pick.
I do too.
I got a bone to pick.
I've got a huge bone to pick.
You need to respect my boundaries.
And you need to respect my boundaries.
I don't even think you know what my boundaries are.
Do I really care what your boundaries are? Yes, of course I care what your boundaries are. And I hope you care what my boundaries are.
Okay, so what are my boundaries?
I don't know.
See?
You gotta tell me what your boundaries are.
So right now, we're getting to an issue right off the bat.
Yep.
It's hard to respect someone's boundaries if that person has not communicated what their boundaries
Exactly.
are. Woo! Well, okay. So what do you think my boundaries are?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And that's just being completely serious.
Right.
I mean, I know we've been married for a little bit.
A minute, right?
But
Maybe for a minute.
I don't know exactly clearly what your boundaries are. I know my boundaries, and maybe I communicate my boundaries to you, like right now.
Yeah, so, whenever we first thought about doing an episode on boundaries, the first thought actually was to do space, giving each other space.
Okay.
Which is actually a subset of boundaries.
Okay.
The reason why I thought about giving space, giving each other space as an episode was, last week you left me.
I sure did.
You did.
Had to recharge. Even if it was just for a couple of days, had to recharge.
It's funny. You got me a massage.
Yep.
For Father's Day, because you're gone for Father's Day weekend. So
sure
you blessed me with a massage.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there. They have this pre-consultation, and the girl sitting there asking, "Well, what do you need in a massage?" I was like, I don't know. I said, "This was a gift." And she's looked and said, "Oh yeah, it looks like your wife gifted this to you." I said, "Yeah, she left me." And she had this blank stare, like all the color just washed out of her face.
You
like
need to stop doing people like that.
I told her it's okay. She's coming back. She just went to go visit her grandson in Florida. And she was, But that was kind of funny. But while you were gone...
Funny to you, honey, but that's okay.
She had laughed about it at the end.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she did.
But the thing is, while you were gone, I realized that what we say to our couples in premarital is absolutely true. At the very beginning, you want to be together all the time. You want to be up on top of each other. You want to see each other across the room or sitting right beside you. You want to hold hands. You want to cuddle, snuggle, all that good stuff. Always be in each other's presence. But there gets to be a time when your relationship matures that you don't need to be on top of each other all the time.
At all.
In fact, it can get to the point where that kind of smothering is wearing on a relationship.
Yep.
So, is it a bad thing to spend time apart?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
In fact, it's rather freeing.
Yes.
And whenever you trust your partner, whenever you trust your wife or your husband, that's when it's freeing. If you don't have that trust,
then it's an issue.
Then it's a big issue.
It's a huge
and
issue.
It's very stressful whenever they're not around. You're wondering, what are they doing? Where are they going? Who are they seeing? And if these things are starting to creep into your mind as a concern, there's a few things that you need to address.
Oh, there is.
And one of those is boundaries.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we've said that you don't know what my boundaries are. Can you think of some typical boundaries that I make not an issue? Here's an example.
Yeah, if I say, give me an example because...
Here's an example. Cell phones. You know my password and you know your thumbprint's on my phone. So at any time,
and same thing
like
with mine,
when we're sitting together, I don't put my phone face down.
No.
I leave it face up.
Yeah.
Why do I do that? Why do you think?
Because if anybody texts or call or any stuff like that, I'm not worried about who it is that's calling or texting you.
Because I have nothing to hide. Right?
Yeah.
Now, it is a matter of privacy, right? For her to not actively go into my phone and see what I've been doing, where I've been going, who I've been talking to.
Facts.
But I don't have any concerns about her doing that at any moment in time. It's just that our relationship has matured to the point where I know I don't fear her crossing that boundary, and she has no drive to cross that boundary. There's nothing that would make her want to say, I need to check that phone.
Yeah.
It's not that you should go into each other's phone. It's just that it should not be an issue. It's a boundary line that she respects, but nothing that I put out to say, hey, you need to stay out of my phone. Right?
Yeah.
So you tell me one of your boundary issues, whether or not it's being crossed.
So, I mean, even when you can get in your car and leave and go anywhere, I'm okay with that. I mean, I trust you enough to know that you're not going somewhere where you're not supposed to be going to. So, I feel like that's a healthy boundary.
Yeah, like I used to go to the Apple store. And then you converted me to Android.
You converted yourself. You need to stop that. I have had my Android forever because I do not, and I repeat,
I want to be
sorry users, but I don't like Apple.
I want to be on the same team, and you kept referring to it as Team iPhone and Team Android. So if I'm going to be on the same team, I had to switch because you weren't going to.
You best believe I was not going to.
So we've talked about some healthy boundaries, right? What would be some unhealthy boundaries?
Well, just like I just said that I'm okay with you jumping in your car and just leaving. Unhealthy would be that, I got to go with you wherever you go. Everywhere you go.
Right.
And after a while, that's going to get annoying. Having to be with you everywhere you go.
And it's not just annoying to you, right? Like, it's not just annoying to your spouse, it's annoying to the people around you. You know, sometimes there might be someone in your circle who wants to have a private conversation with you.
Yep.
Like, you know, there's a bunch of guys that I'm in fellowship with, and there might be, look, I need this marital advice. I just need some input, some insight into what I'm going through. Or I need to unpack something, and how do I approach my wife about this? And it's kind of hard to have that discussion if he brings his wife along to the discussion, right?
That's true.
But then there's the flip side of things. You know, I wouldn't sit down and have that kind of discussion with a female.
Yeah, no.
Right?
No, because we also know that when we're counseling, if you're counseling a female, I need to be present, and vice versa. If I'm counseling a male, you need to be present. I mean, that's counseling 101.
True.
Yeah. So we talked that in the very beginning.
And is that a boundary issue? Or is it just plain wisdom? Avoid all appearances of evil.
Yeah.
And if you're meeting with a female, I'm going to tell you what, one of the things that we teach, you know, sometimes people even say, you know, well, I'm not attracted to her like that. But the right conversation, the right atmosphere with the right things going on in your life, someone who's unattractive to you or just not attractive to you could, in a moment, in just a few minutes, become very attractive to you.
Yeah.
So don't even put yourself in that situation.
At all.
That's more self-accountability than boundary issues in marriage. So as we look at boundary issues, we can see that, okay, well, there are good, healthy boundaries where if you want to do a spa day or want to get some me time, having that boundary is actually healthy for you and healthy for me. If you want to go on a trip to visit a grandchild or visit your son, I don't have to be on top of you. In fact, when we're apart, one of the things that's interesting in a relationship is that whenever you're dating or courting and you're spending time apart, you can do things for each other and surprise them at the end. But whenever you're married, it's kind of hard to keep some of those, what I'll call secret preparations to surprise your spouse. It's kind of hard to keep them secret at times because you see me every day. If I want to do something prolonged, like maybe swipe your car and get it washed for you, it might be difficult for me to do that if you're driving your car every day.
Exactly.
But if you come home to a clean car,
which I did, thank you, Lord.
It's like, oh, wow, he did that for me.
Yes.
I would not have been able to surprise you like that.
Nope.
if you had been around.
That's true.
So it's good to have those boundaries where you're comfortable being apart, where you're not trying to always be on top of each other. But then there are unhealthy boundaries where, like, I'm always constantly checking up on you. I'm searching through your phone. I'm trying to find out what you said to someone else in a private conversation. There are certain things that I should allow you to keep as private.
Exactly.
Right?
So if I'm talking to my friends about something, it's more than likely doesn't always. I'm talking to them about something because it could be something privately that they need for just me to discuss with them.
Yeah. So we had a dear friend who actually commented on the post that we put out on Facebook. Says, there's the key to healthy boundaries is communication.
It is. Communication is key.
Totally agree with that. Yeah. Totally agree. Because as we mentioned, as we started off, I can't know what your boundaries are if you don't communicate them with me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be honest. I set up Winona here at the very beginning. When I asked her, well, what are my boundaries? And she didn't know. It was a setup because I really don't have any boundary issues. I really don't. I trust her enough that I don't feel like she's encroaching on anything that's just mine if she tries to dive into it.
Oh, you don't like the mine? You don't like that?
Yeah, really, I take it whenever we use possessives or things like that in marriage. Like, whenever I look at my car, I don't see it as mine as in possession. It's just mine as in, well, that's what I typically use.
And I know, yes, your car is different.
Well,
you like features in your car that bugs me.
Well,
so it is your car.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like to drive my car because even though you can drive it also, I don't have those features that will bug me that's in your car.
Well, little Miss 5 foot nothing.
Oh, well.
You have your seat just automatically moving forward. We even have had service guys say, I have to jump out of your car whenever I turn it off because otherwise I'm going to get pinned between the seat and the wheel. And it's like you've got it rigged that you're the only person who can drive it. It is her car. I get it. So, there are times when we're here together and in the house. I mean, we're pretty much empty nesters at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes we're spending time together like this. Sometimes we're in the Word together, just studying together, preparing for the next workshop together. And sometimes we're in separate places of the house watching our individual shows. Yes. I love sci-fi.
And I cannot stand it.
I don't understand, but I respect that. What? Right.
Okay, let me repeat. So it's not that I can't understand it. Some of it I don't understand it. I think that's what it is.
That's what you just said.
Oh, that is what I just said. So since I don't understand it, it's a little difficult for me. So, but it may be something that I like to watch that you don't like.
That's true. Yeah, that has happened.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll watch something with her that I don't want to watch, but I just feel like spending time with her. And sometimes I'll say, yeah, go ahead and watch that. Yeah,
because I think I'm more, when it comes to that, I think I'm more like history, that type of thing. I like stuff that it talks about what has happened to people and, kind of based on the true story and, I like,
Sci-fi is based on true stories.
No, it is not.
See, all that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
And then there's Star Wars. It happened a long, long time ago. A long time ago.
Rob.
It was a galaxy far, far away, but it was a long time ago. That's history.
No, sir. No, sir.
No?
No.
So sometimes the boundaries are established to recognize each other's differences and preferences, things that you like to do. Give each other that space.
Yeah.
Give each other that space. It's all right.
It is.
You don't have to be threatened by your spouse wanting space. Now, where you do get threatened is if they want that space all the time. If they never want to be. In fact, we watched a movie last night, and they were in a canoe together, and the wife jumped out of the canoe into shark-infested waters just to get away from her husband. What? And whenever it was called out to the husband, he was like, oh, yeah, I guess she did do that. Sometimes you can be too smothering in a marriage.
That is not what you want to do.
And that will repel your spouse. That is a toxic boundary encroachment.
We won't have to worry about me jumping out of a canoe.
But we'll give you a tip though. If you want a marriage building exercise, go kayaking together, go canoeing together, and just try to get from point A to point B. Because you really have to work together, and whenever you don't,
you really do. You will go a mile past your exit if you don't work together.
Yeah, if we ever did a marriage retreat, we might have to do that. We might have to make that a test for the couples.
Oh, that would be so good.
Wow. So when it comes to boundaries, communication is key.
It is.
Recognizing that that things aren't going great in terms of your boundaries. One of the big signs there is if you do have trust issues.
Oh, goodness.
If you feel like... Well, go ahead.
It's nice that we don't.
Right.
You would think a little bit of our past issues with former spouses, you would think that we both would have trust issues, but we don't, which is wonderful because we thought that we trusted our formers, and and neither one of us have trust issues. So I applaud us. I applaud us for not having trust issues.
Well, I go beyond applauding us.
Okay.
And applauding the God that we have our faith in.
Oh, yes. And thank you, God. Thank you.
I say that because, part of marriage is to help each other heal. We all come into marriage with blemishes, with scars, with
baggage,
gaping holes in our hearts,
and you shouldn't.
And whether you've been married before or not, you've likely been in a relationship that broke your heart, or maybe you broke someone else's heart.
Yeah.
And whenever that happens, there's still part of you that wears heavy on that.
Yeah.
And if there was a relationship that you were in before, that you're still carrying that baggage. Sometimes that baggage hides deep in your heart, deep in your soul, until something triggers it and brings it out.
Yeah. That's why you should leave the baggage at the door.
Yeah, but sometimes
really should.
Sometimes that baggage sometimes that baggage is invisible and weightless. You don't even know that you're carrying it until something comes out.
That's true.
I often refer to your heart as my promised land. And I keep referring to that because as Joshua went into the promised land, as they went into Canaan, they started to find that the enemies, the giants, they were hiding in caves and other areas, and they might come out when they least expected it. Now, every time that Joshua went into battle, he'd ask God first, what should I do? Should I battle this adversary? Should I not? And he would listen to God every time. And that's why he was successful.
Yep.
But that's an example, a biblical example of what I mean, that the baggage that you bring into a marriage, you're not going to know that you're bringing it in. It's not like you're carrying on checked baggage where you deliberately bring it onto the plane and put it in the overhead storage. No, you don't know that you're carrying the baggage. You really don't.
Yeah, that's true.
And part of marriage making you holy is how you deal with that baggage.
That's true.
Right? So if something comes up, let's say I decide, I found this new group of guys that I'm going to fellowship with, and we're going to go out on Friday night and just talk. I've never done that before. In all of our years of marriage, I've never done that before. And now all of a sudden, I want to. See, whenever you look at issues, whenever you start look at if someone is starting to wander in the marriage, you start to look at things like changes in behavior.
Yeah.
If he's never done this, he's never gone golfing before, but now he's going golfing every weekend for 3.5 hours.
Now, to that extent, okay, so it may be a new That's what I said. That's why we're talking about having trust with your significant other, because it may be a new hobby that you want to start doing. It doesn't mean that's a bad thing that you want to go golfing. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing that you want to go out and fellowship with new friends. That is not. So we cannot say that. Okay, now the change in the behavior is when other things start to happen along with that, like you're not showing your significant other any type of attention. You want to do all those other things, plus you don't want to show her or him any type of attention, and you're like, well, then that part is a problem.
It becomes a sign. It just becomes something that is. I'm not going to immediately accuse you of cheating if you're starting to go golfing or go to the nail salon. You just had your nails done last week and you have to go back again this weekend. That might be a little suspicious.
Oh, that is so suspicious because,
but in general, and we should be able to ask. We should be able to remain accountable. Like whenever I say that I'm going to meet up with these guys, you actually know them. There's not going to be these random guys that you never met before that you don't know about, and all of a sudden there's this new group of men's fellowship guys in my life. That might be a little suspicious. I should respect you enough to communicate with you what I'm doing and who I'm doing it with.
And that's what we just said. I mean, communication is key.
Exactly.
So
boundary issues are something that can tear your marriage apart. One, if there are toxic boundaries where you're enforcing something that should not be enforced, or if there's a lack of healthy boundaries where you feel comfortable, where you have that trust to let them have their space. Now, some of these things are very difficult to get to. Some of them, it's natural to get to. And a lot of that depends on the baggage that you bring into the marriage, right?
So, can we go just a little deeper and a little bit rawer?
Okay. Scaring me. Go ahead. Bring it.
So, I mean, as you're talking about with the boundaries, what about the part of having the healthy boundaries as far as, like I just said, I mean, former, spouses and stuff. And, I mean, there should be a healthy boundary with that too, correct?
How do you mean?
Okay.
Unpack that deeper.
Okay, so say for instance, the boundary should be that if the person comes, they're not allowed to come in your home, your new home. To the door, I understand, because if there's children or whatever it is involved, then yes. But to actually come in unless they're invited in, I mean, because the boundary part would that be you would not go to their home and go inside their home.
So there's a couple of different ways that I could interpret that.
Okay.
One, I could interpret that as that X should not come into our home when we're not here. Like, for example,
she comes
to pick up the kids, and the kids let her in. Okay, that's absolutely no. Absolutely not. Okay. Then there could be what you're talking about. I'm not sure if this is what you mean. She comes and I invite her in to sit down. Okay. Are you saying that's not okay?
Only way that would be okay is if you had if both your new and former had a relationship with each other. Now, for some reason, if they do not have a relationship with each other, then it's a little bit of an issue. I mean, let me rephrase all of what I'm talking about. So basically, in some relationships with the former and with the new, they have relationships with each other. So it is a healthy boundary. So they go on vacations together, and just because they're co-parenting, it's just, that's what happens sometime in your relationship, is if you and the other, your other significant, your ex is not, just because y'all are not together anymore, the kids, or you want the kids to still stay healthy in the relationship.
Right.
So,
well, there is a concept that overrides what you're talking about.
Okay, which is?
And that is, whether it be my ex or not, if another woman came to our door, I would not let her in our house unless you're here.
Well, of course.
Right? I mean,
Yes.
that's just what we said, wisdom.
Yeah.
So same would go with my ex. My ex came to the door. There is no way she's going to cross our threshold if you're not here.
That's true.
So-
and she doesn't need to cross the threshold if her and I do not have a relationship with each other, and vice versa. Am I right?
Agreed. Yeah, and
Okay.
so that really comes down to a case-by-case basis. Like
That
you
is
said, some exes have a healthy relationship. There is healthy co-parenting relationships out there.
There is
I've
healthy.
seen them. I've seen
them, yeah.
I've seen. I don't want to call them a broken family because divorce does not make a family broken. Usually, the family is broken before the divorce happens,
Yeah,
right? And yet, these two formerly married people, they have remarried both themselves and they do holidays together.
Yep.
I was like, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome.
Because they're trying to make sure that their kids are staying healthy. Because divorce is it's ugly. It
Can be.
is a ugly monster.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, it can.
So in order to keep everybody, healthy, and that's what we're talking about, healthy boundaries and unhealthy boundaries. But in order to keep the kids healthy, a lot of parents are co-parenting like that, and it's it works. For a lot of people and stuff. So
Now, at the risk of prolonging this episode, we have to also point out, recognize that the boundaries the way we conduct and manage the boundaries in our life, it affects the children.
Oh, yes.
Because the children will adopt our boundary habits. And sometimes the children will become ultra cagey, where they don't want to share anything with someone else, and they become very private, very insular,
Yep.
and that affects their future relationships.
it does.
So there are, you kind of have to take a look at your motives for why you're sharing or not sharing. It gets into a whole other conversation when we start talking about the children. But understand that if you're not able to represent healthy boundaries in a relationship, that will affect your children.
It will.
Wow. So we've covered a whole lot here today.
We have, and we have to actually, we have to do a raw marriage about the kids someday.
One last question. So if you feel that your spouse is encroaching upon a boundary,
Okay.
what do you do?
Communicate with them.
Isn't that what Lisa said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Open communication.
Communication.
And the way I start off this episode with saying, I've got a bone to pick with you. You need to respect my boundaries. That was not a compassionate confrontation. We are about to do a workshop on compassionate confrontation, and I didn't practice any of the principles that go along with that. But the way I portrayed it is typically how it goes. Someone gets to a boiling point and boom, they explode on their spouse. That's not helpful, because that put her on the defensive. Did you notice that? Also, as I'm trying to get across my angst over my boundaries being not respected, her response was, well, you don't respect mine either. She was
the roll
completely
of the neck.
She was completely shut down from hearing what I had to say.
Yeah.
So whenever you do approach your spouse about a boundary encroachment or boundary issue, it's more along the lines of, can we talk? I'm feeling this way, and I'm wondering if we can change things up a little bit. Of course, we can't cover exactly how you should cover it, how you should approach your spouse in a few minutes here at the end of this episode. But it's something that we can help you with, whether it be through our compassionate confrontation workshop or even just sitting down with us. We've got the companion couples program where we can help you guys through some stuff like this. It can turn into full-on counseling, or it can be guidance, but it's on an as-needed basis. Just go to our website and go to the menu item that says marriage maintenance.
Yes.
We can help you with stuff like this.
Yes, we do.
It's not rocket science, but it is intentional. And the way you go about it, the way you approach it, can make all the difference in the world.
It can. It really can.
So, As we close this out, it's just a reminder that we are My Relationship Experts.
Yes,
I'm
we
Rob
are.
Hollis.
And I'm Winona Hollis.
And we are here to help you make love last a lifetime.